Greetings. In the last video I did, the testimony of Jesus for the rapture, we used the verse in Revelation 19 verse 10 to show that the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy. And when we think of that, we usually think of it in relationship to end time events. But we can't forget that this is a testimony that Jesus has left us that we need to pay attention to. We need to separate the difference between things that he has in prophecy for Israel from truths that he has for the church. Paul made distinctions like that even in 1 Corinthians. In chapter 10, he said we're not to give offense to the Jew, the Gentile, or to the church of God. So there's three distinct groups there that even Paul understood needed to be separated. When we think of the Jew, we think of promises that God made to Israel that he will fulfill at the second coming of the Lord when he comes back to this earth. When we think of the Gentile, we think of things that are in relationship to judgment for them. In Ezekiel chapter 30 verse 3, we're told that the time of the heathen is during the tribulation time. In other words, that's when they're going to be judged, this world, as far as the tribulation is concerned. And then we need to understand where the church is during this time. It's my understanding that the scriptures show us that the church is not here during the tribulation. We have been called home to be with the Lord. And the testimony of Jesus has been revealed in his days after the resurrection. In the last video we showed that he appeared, he disappeared, and he reappeared many times to the disciples and to the believers during that time. And I think that he was conditioning the believers and preparing them for his coming back again when he appears in the clouds with a shout, and we are gathered together at that time. What I want to show further is that in Acts chapter 1, this rapture is not for the world to see. Some people call it a secret rapture. Well, it's not for the world to see. It's not for the world to be a part of. This is the Lord coming home for the body of Christ, for the church. And in Acts chapter 1, that is evident. It says in Acts chapter 1 verse 9, "And when he had spoken these things, while they beheld, he was taken up. And a cloud received him out of their sight. And while they looked steadfastly toward heaven, as he went up, two men stood by them in white apparel, which also said, You men of Galilee, why stand you gazing up into heaven? This same Jesus, which is taken up from you into heaven, shall so come in like manner as you have seen him go into heaven." That's a very important phrase there, in like manner. The world wasn't around when Jesus departed and went into heaven. And they won't be around when the Lord comes back for the church to gather us together and take us home in heaven. After that, the world will go through a tribulation period. Israel will go through that tribulation period. In fact, the scriptures say that this is the time of Jacob's trouble. The church won't be there. And here we have a private setting with many believers, anywhere from the disciples, his family, and a small group up to 500 possibly, could have seen him leave this world up into heaven in the clouds. And he's going to come back for us, according to the two men who left this testimony. He's going to come back in like manner. In like manner means that it's not going to be for the world to see. When the Lord comes back at his second coming, he's going to be seen by the world. They're going to know he's coming, and there's going to be great fear. This situation is different from that. The church is going to be gathered up with the Lord to be with him forevermore.